Hey folks, Mike and I just got back from a spring bear hunt in Montana and wanted to make a quick video to recap our experience with you guys. Want to share some learning experiences. Want to tell you about some of the testing that we got to do with our meals, the Pursuit Fuel freeze-dried backpacking meals that we're going to be bringing to you very soon. And just, this trip was unlike anything that either of us has ever experienced. We combined a hunt, which if you backcountry hunt and you've been on 3-day, 5-day, 7-day hunts, you know how mentally demanding and exhausting that can be by itself. We were crazy enough to try to combine that with getting a bunch of content for YouTube channels, as well as, like I just mentioned, testing our meals. We had an amazing photographer, Brett Singh, was with us, and we're getting images for the website, and we're testing food, and there was a lot going on, and we're going to recap it here for you. And like I said, we're going to share some experiences, learning experiences and lessons learned from the actual hunt itself. Got a surprise ending on the bear, so stick around. All right, so let's break down the hunt and the week itself. I flew out to Montana on it was a Sunday, I guess. And then Monday, we spent several hours in our commercial kitchen, and we were packaging some of our prototype meals that we were going to take on this trip with us, as well as finalizing our fourth recipe to submit to the health department. At that exact time, 3 of our 4 meals have already been approved by the health department. And when I say approved, they have to be tested for pH, moisture content, things that ensure that the meals are safe for you to eat, because we've taken, what was once a spoilable, fresh food, and we've made it shelf stable. So we have to, jump through some hoops with the health department. And the first 3 meals, chili, turkey soup, and biscuits and gravy, had been approved. The 4th meal that we were working on was a salmon, spicy salmon. We'll call it a chili, but it's got rice in it. It's an amazing meal, and it actually turned out to be arguably the best tasting and people's favorite. So anyway, we were in the kitchen Monday, and it was really cool to just be able to be in the kitchen together. This idea that we have been working on. I'm in Virginia, Mike's in Montana, we're communicating and we're talking, and for us to be in the kitchen together finally and putting the finishing touches on some of these things, it's a really cool experience. We can't wait to share these meals with you. We know how good they taste, and that was another part of this trip that was amazingly rewarding and super exciting. We got to give the meals to some of the folks that joined us. We had Lauren Burgess join us, who is a new kind of aspiring hunter. Lauren has her first sheep tag this year, and she's an ice climber, an ultra marathoner, and just this amazing athlete in the backcountry. And so to get feedback from her, and then from Brett, who has decades of experience in the hunting space and has tried every backpacking meal that there is, and to have them try the meals and come back and say, man, these are so good that I would rehydrate these at home, put them in a bowl, and serve them to dinner guests and tell them that I cooked them myself. And so that's what we're going for with these meals. We don't want stuff that you'll eat just because you're starving and you'll eat anything during a hunt. We want the highest quality, healthiest, most nutrient dense meals that taste great on or off the mountain, and are filled with no BS, and only things that are going to improve your mental and physical performance. And so, to be able to say, hey, we know these things taste good, but to get them in other people's hands, to see their reactions, that was an amazing part of this trip. And we spent a lot of time Tuesday going through that. We wanted Lauren and Brett, and then we ended up meeting up with another friend of ours, Brian Barney, and got Brian some meals. And so to have all of these folks who aren't us try these meals and say they're good was a really amazing experience. And so, Tuesday was a lot of that. We did meet up with Brian on Tuesday afternoon. He was already at a vantage point and had been sitting there for a few hours, and he had actually had eyes on a big chocolate boar. And by the time we got there, it had disappeared off into the trees, and we sat on that spot for another couple of hours, and we didn't see anything. And man, that was an amazing spot. There were hundreds of elk out in front of us, and to be able to see these things in May and just unpressured, and they didn't care about people. They didn't know we were there, and we even heard a May bugle, and we were joking about that. And it was really cool to just be able to see that much wildlife. We saw a bunch of ewes up on the mountain, and we glassed up a big ram. Just a really cool experience to be able to see so much wildlife and to get to pick Brian's brain. Brian was very open about willing to share. If you know who Brian is, that's just in his nature. He's super helpful, super excited, super passionate about hunting. And so, to be able to learn from him and quiz him on, why are we in this spot and what are you looking for and all those different things. And so, like I said, we sat on that spot for a couple hours, didn't see that bear reappear. So we went on a little hike and moved maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles, I don't even know. We got to a different vantage point, and we were looking into a different spot. Again, tons of elk, but no bears. We stayed there until maybe about an hour before sundown, and we hiked out. On the way out, we crossed some grizzly tracks and got to measure those. Brian shared with us a pretty cool tip for trying to get a size on the bear, and you actually see he lays an arrow down in the track to try to measure it. And so let me see if I can get this right. I think it was the inches plus 1 gives you approximate size in feet of the bear. So if the track is 6 inches wide, add 1, 7, so it's about a 7-foot bear. And so I believe the track that we saw was maybe 5 inches. So he was, guessing maybe it was 5.5 inches. So, somewhere in the range of a 6.5 foot, 6 to 6.5 foot grizzly bear. So big bear, not a huge grizzly bear. We've seen bigger tracks in Montana, but it's always good to get that reminder in the form of a footprint rather than actually seeing the grizzly bear itself that, hey, keep your head on a swivel. We're not the apex predator out here. And so we made it back to the vehicles, and Brian had one more spot that you could actually glass from the road. And so we went down there to just glass for the last maybe half an hour before we lost all light. And the cool thing about bear hunting is, at least in Montana, last light is like 9:15. So, it's a long evening, lots of daylight to be able to take advantage of. And so, we got to this other spot, maybe around 8:45 or so. And, Brian was telling us a story about how, the year before he and one of his buddies were able to actually make a play up in one of these meadows that we could glass from where we were parked, that there was a bear up there. And, sure enough, about 5 or 10 minutes later, a bear pops out, kind of comes across this little scree field and is working its way into that exact same meadow. And, it was we'll call it a medium-sized bear. We ended up seeing bears every single day, and this was first night. Definitely not enough time to make a play on this thing. And it's probably a good thing we didn't. As the week went on, this was the smallest bear that we saw. But even as we saw it then, we were just kind of saying, it's kind of a medium bear, right? It wasn't like, wow, that's a big one. So, day one, tons of animals, saw a bear. We knew that if nothing else happened, we could come back to that spot and see if we could see that bear again, or if there was another bear in that area. But, a lot of bear hunting in the spring is, figuring out where's the grass green, where are the bears kind of congregating. And so to see that first bear was a really good sign and really exciting. So that was Tuesday. And so then Wednesday, we were without Brian on Wednesday. We had Lauren and Brett come back to camp with us. We got a bunch of content, got them to try some more meals on Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, we got them to try the biscuits and gravy, and they absolutely loved it. Went on a hike to another vantage point where, man, it was an amazing master vantage point, if you want to call it that. And as you can see, you could just, the views are amazing. You could see for miles, and just the amount of country that you could see from this spot was just phenomenal. And to be sitting on the side of this cliff, and we could actually see the drainage where Mike and I started our archery elk hunt last year. So to have a different perspective on that country and to be able to see so much was just amazing. And we had Brett, who was maybe 30, 40 yards behind us, actually trying to film get some footage of us with one of our meals. It was actually the chili meal. And, so we're setting it up, and we're doing the photo shoot, if you will. And, that was the whole plan, was to go up there and get content. And, Mike and I are kind of out on this rock outcropping, and we're fixing the meal, and Brett's up behind us, and he's got his binoculars up, and he's like, "Hey guys, I got a bear." So he actually spotted a bear, I guess we'll call it kind of medium distance for what we could see. But what it was going to take to get to that spot was, as I said, we're on this cliff face. So we would have had to hike, well, not would have, we actually did. And Brett was only with us until about noon that day. So what we did was we finished getting the content that we wanted to get with Brett. We got a meal, and then we hiked back down this vantage point, back down to the truck. We had to drive back to camp to get Brett back to his vehicle so he could go home. Mike and I come back in the truck. We park on, the opposite side of this cliff, the face, the direction that we were able to look. And then there's a river down in the bottom, so we actually have to try to find a place to cross. We had to go shoes off and get to the other side, dry off, put our shoes back on. And, from that angle, your sight lines change, and everything is very different, as you know, and you drop off that vantage point. So we put together what we thought was a really great game plan. There wasn't a perfect, even from that vantage point, there really wasn't a perfect spot to say, hey, if we can get to here, we've got a shot. And of course, with the bears in the spring, they never really stop moving. So you don't know, is it going to still be there? Is it going to be somewhere else? Is it going to just lay down? Whatever. So we got to the ridge line and the spot that we wanted to be in, where we could see where the bear was when we first saw it. Long story short, we never spotted the bear again. We weren't able to turn him up. It was very thick, not a lot of openings, not a lot of great vantages. So, we're in the trees, and we've got small gaps and breaks in the trees, and you can kind of see patches, but you could never really see full openings the way that we could from that master vantage. So, for all we know, it could have been in there, and we just, we didn't get that angle and that view, or maybe it just moved off completely. Maybe it winded us, who knows? But that was Wednesday, and got back to camp and got a really good night's sleep that night. And Thursday, and we woke up Thursday morning, and we hit that same master vantage point on Thursday, just because it was so close to camp, and we wanted to be able to see in the morning, if there's going to be anything else there. Didn't glass anything up there. Came down, and there's an old logging road that went around the backside of a different ridge, and we parked there and went on a little bit of a walk, a couple miles in and out, and glassed some things, and some real good looking country. Just didn't see any bears. Saw a bunch of mule deer. And then as we came out, it was probably like 1, 2 o'clock, maybe a little bit later. And Brian had sent us a pin and was like, "Hey, this is where I'm going to be for the afternoon. You guys want to come join?" So we hadn't seen anything, so we did. And it was actually a spot very close to a spot that we hunted on our spring bear hunt last year. And it was really cool to be able to, to know, last year was our first bear hunt, and to know, like, hey, we picked a really good spot, because, man, Brian Barney has hunted this for, 10, 15 years, and we were within eyesight of, like, we could literally glass where we were sitting, and we were looking at a lot of the same meadows, just from a slightly different angle. So it's kind of validating for us to know, like, hey, we picked a good spot. And so this spot we're sitting on, we sat there for a few hours, and again, we got to see so much cool, just wildlife viewing. We saw there were about 3 elk in this field down in the bottom, and they just took off running. And it was almost as if they had been spooked or jumped. And both Mike and I are looking behind them. Is it a person? Is it a bear? Mountain lion? What's going on? And it turns out they were just playing. They weren't running from anything. They just started running circles and chasing each other. And they were actually bulls. And at this point in May, they had just started to pop out with antlers and velvet. And so you can see these little nubs. And man, it was just really cool to be able to watch that. And then those three go into this kind of thick stuff. And then when they reemerge, there's like 9 more with them. So there's this huge bachelor brood of bulls. And it was just really cool to be able to see 9, 12 of these things just kind of cruising around, hanging out. We got to see a fox, just really, really cool. And, so we're sitting there, and again, we're talking, we're getting to learn from Brian. And by this time, it's about 7 o'clock, 7:15. And Brian says, all right, it's going to happen, guys. We're going to see one, and I think it's going to happen before 8 o'clock. And he's like, I promise you. So he said, you know what, let's get up and we'll walk, just stretch our legs and get loose just in case we have to go on a stalk. Because where we're sitting, it's a master vantage point. So you're expecting to see a bear, thousands of yards away or a mile or 2 away. And you're like, okay, like let's go make a play on this thing before dark. And so we get up and we kind of walk around the side of this face. The hillside just kind of curves around, and he's like, there's a spot down, there's an opening down at the bottom here that we can't really see from where we're sitting, so maybe we'll just get eyes on that. And Brian is in front of me, and I'm maybe 10, 20 steps behind him, and Mike's 10 or 20 steps behind me, and all of a sudden Brian just kind of crouches down and freezes. He doesn't even hesitate, just turns around and looks at me. He's like, there's a bear, go get your rifle. And man, my heart rate instantly goes from like nothing to I am, just full adrenaline. I'm shaking, I'm breathing hard, and I sprint back, and like I said, we were just standing up to stretch our legs. We didn't have our packs, we didn't have our weapons, we didn't have anything with us except just binos. And it turns out this bear was actually on our hillside. It was about our hill kind of dipped down, and then like a second one kind of came out. So it was on our side, and it was like right at 300 yards. So I run back, I grab the rifle. I did have the presence of mind to grab my bipod. That just is it's a Spartan quick attach. What I wish in hindsight I had done was grab either my pack or Mike actually glasses using his shooting sticks. He puts them in an X, and then he can rest your binoculars on them, and he had been doing that. And so his shooting sticks, and I have a pair too, but his were just out. They were already expanded and folded and perfect. Could have just grabbed those as well. But I just figured, hey, I got the bipod, that'll be enough. So run back, and again, the whole time I'm running back, I'm like, getting the scope ready and making sure the cover's off and trying to get around in the chamber, calm my breathing. And by the time I get back to them, finishing getting around in the chamber, and they're like, okay, we got it. And they're giving me the yardage. And like I said, it was right at 300 yards. And he's like, all right, right here. And, they'd already planned everything out. They had eyes on the bear. They had eyes on where I was shooting from. And so there's this rock outcropping, and I'm getting prone on this rock outcropping. And I'm almost ready to pull the trigger. I'm looking through the scope. I'm waiting on the bear to, clear some trees. And Mike and Brian are both like, hey, there's a stick in your way. And, Brian comes down. He's like, I don't like this setup. And I couldn't really see the stick. If this table is the rock outcropping, the stick was kind of coming right up here. And the way the scope was looking, I couldn't see it, but it was like right in front of the barrel. So he's like, hey, let's move back here. So we get up and move back, and I'm kind of on the back ledge of that same rock outcropping, and I'm seated or kind of kneeling in that kind of crouch position, and I've got the gun up on the rocks, and so I'm behind it, and it's like the bear, the whole time the bear is just working its way up this hillside, and it has no idea we're there. It's not pressured, it's not moving quickly, but at the same time, it's not stopping. It's just casually moving up that hill. And so, in your head, you're like, man, this thing is not going to stop. And so, I get this thing, I find the shooting position that we want. We're good. Safety's off. Bear clears a tree. I find it in the crosshairs. Bang. And man, it was, as you can see, man, it was so close. I ended up missing, a little bit high, a little bit behind it. And again, some of that is, the bear was moving, but I take full ownership of the fact that, in the midst of all that chaos, I finally got to my shooting position. I finally got that thing, in the scope. It cleared a tree. I found the fur, and then I just slapped the trigger. There's nothing else to say other than, I didn't execute the shot the way we know how to execute a shot. And so the lesson here is, for me, as much as for anybody else, that every single time I pick up my rifle to do a dry firing drill, or every single time I pick up my bow, I shoot my bow every single day. I do the dry firing drills with my rifle, not every day, but maybe 5 days a week, 3 days a week. I would much rather hunt with a bow than a rifle. And so I think every single time I'm picking up my bow, it is saying that thought process or the shot process in your head every single time. And if we don't accumulate those reps in practice, with that shot process, there's no way that we're going to remember to go through it in the heat of the moment like that. And that's what happened. We all miss. It happens. It sucks. I really hate that this first hunt recap video that we share with you is, not a successful, tagging out, right? But at the end of the day, it was an incredible opportunity. It was a great week, a great hunt. We still had a couple of days left on the backside of that. We got more content, we got more videos, and we just weren't able to turn up another bear. And we had one other day of hunting, and no bears and no opportunities at Redemption. But I think like I said, the one lesson is that shot process and just drilling it and drilling it and drilling it all through the off season and year round, so that in that moment, your subconscious mind, it's wired in. And a lot of folks would say muscle memory, right? But I can't say that. That's like nails on a chalkboard to me. Muscles do not have the capacity for memory. It's actually neurological wiring. Riding a bike, a golf swing, the way we shoot our bow, that's not muscle memory, it's neurological wiring. And so it sucks. Like, this is what I teach, this is what I know, and then I still make that same mistake. So that's our spring bear hunt. And like I said, it sucks. I'm sorry that we don't have this amazing picture of a huge bear to show you. This thing was a chocolate. Brian and Mike got better looks at it than I did, but as you can see in the video, it's a pretty sizable bear. Brian was saying probably somewhere 6 to 6.5 feet. Like I said, it would have been really cool to be able to get hands on that thing and to be able to, just share in the experience of a successful hunt with these guys. I think that's the thing that hurts me the most, isn't that I missed. That's an ego thing, and I can handle that. I know, I heard the line of, if you're not enough without it, you won't be enough with it, right? And I'm enough without that. And it's not the ego of missing that hurts. What really hurts for me is missing out on that shared experience of the success with Brian and Mike. I mean, these guys wanted it for me probably more than I wanted it for myself. And I could sense, their excitement as I was getting ready for the shot. I could sense their disappointment afterwards, and man, to not be able to have, the photos and the pack out and, sharing the meat with these guys and that side of it, that's what hurts the most. That's what I miss the most. And, I can't thank them enough for their help and their support. And, I think Mike and I both would say thank you to Brian for his, sharing some of his spots and his knowledge and his expertise and what we learned, on this trip, not just about bear hunting, but, about how to juggle, the business side of, meals and business content creation and all this stuff. It was an amazing learning experience, and we'll only get better at these things as we go. And, just more experience. There's no replacement for experience. It is the best teacher, as the saying goes. And so to be able to get that experience, to see all these animals, elk and bear, and just super grateful for that. And really appreciate you guys watching the hunt recap video here. If you've got a story of the one that got away or a miss or anything like that that has happened to you on a hunt, we would love to hear about it. Let us know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We've got tons more content planned coming your way. And hit that little subscribe and the notification bell as well so that you get an alert every time we drop a new video. Thanks for being here. We'll see you soon.